I mean, that kind of leads me to my next question, which has to do with authenticity. Because then it seems more like the creativity comes from a place of just originality or like soulfulness.
What do you think of when you hear the word cult? They're in the games we play, in the movies we watch, they're on TV. Hell, even YouTube has its own cult. You may be familiar with some of the larger and more infamous cults, but what are the common threads between them? What actually makes a group a destructive cult? Hi, I'm Mr. Despair. I'm not a therapist, but I am an expert at not joining cults, according to HowStuffWorks.com. Today I'm going to be going over how to identify cults, using information that I'm going to be taking from a book called Combating Cult Mind Control, written by a therapist and expert, and ex-cult member named Steven Hassan. He uses the B.I.T.E model of undue influence, which he'll explain here.
Is a social science to creating a cult. But again, I cite the B.I.T.E model and cite that, if there's deception, so there's lack of informed consent, if there's extreme use of fear and guilt, if there's information control where people are being told you can't talk to critics or defectors, or you need to cut off from family or friends who are questioning you, I'm concerned about human rights.
I am too, Steve. This video uses the B.I.T.E model to identify destructive cult behaviors and how they use manipulation and abuse to maintain power.
We're no longer under all that religious folderol and rigmarole.
While it's out of scope for this video, it's important to know that the term mind control doesn't refer to anything mystical in nature. While cults do use overt hypnosis, brainwashing, and torture sometimes, the art of manipulation has refined alongside the field of psychology, and bad actors are capable of using the power of suggestion for selfish and destructive reasons. If you're curious about the specific psychology behind how cults rewire their victims' personalities, I recommend you read Steve's book or watch his episode on the Joe Rogan podcast. Cults are fueled by sex, money, violence, and power. Cults operate on a familiar power structure and maintain it by using coercive and physical force if necessary. Whether it's politically, spiritually, financially, or emotionally, cults always claim to have found the capital A answer to all life's problems. If you're feeling lost or lonely, there's always a destructive cult out there for you. You have your multi-level marketing schemes, martial arts cults, sex cults, religious cults, therapy or self-help groups, authoritarian regimes, extremists, terrorists, cults of personality, and sometimes they all overlap. So it seems like you can call almost anything a cult. But all of these groups have something in common. They all seek to control behavior, information, thoughts, and emotions to exert undue influence over individuals. Cult leaders and recruiters normally target ordinary people at times of great stress or change, while they are most vulnerable to the false sense of security that the group provides. Isolating the recruit from their normal life is essential to create a distance from any past experiences that would conflict with the worldview the cult is selling. Cults exploit the need to belong. One example is a technique called love bombing, or showering a recruit with constant praise, flattery, or acceptance to lower inhibitions, and sometimes sex appeal or outright prostitution are used to lure in new members. On the more extreme end, kidnapping and forced confinement may occur. Once effective, the cult begins to modify the recruit's behaviors to overwrite the original self with a new cult identity. What you wear, eat, watch, read, do for work, where you live, and who you live with are all decided by the cult. Sleep deprivation caused by long workdays, fundraisers, meetings, or classes is a common strategy to lower mental resilience. Obedience is maintained through constant surveillance, spying, snitching, extortion, or strict rules. A legitimate destructive cult will never openly admit to being one. Keeping up appearances is necessary to operate freely while keeping their abuses hidden from the public. Cult members thrive off being hidden in plain sight while being the only credible source for information for its members. Many cults have their own significant ties to publishers, newspapers, television stations, and social media. Cults always promote the insider knowledge of the group as correct and outsider knowledge of conflicting facts as fake or literally evil. Cults use deliberately vague mission statements to deceive the public about its operations, and information flows on an earned or need-to-know basis. For the people working at the bottom of the power structure, it's typical to have no idea of the reality of the inner workings of the group. By providing incorrect or limited information, it makes it impossible to make informed decisions. By also preventing discussion between members about their concerns, enforcing censorship, and attempting to silence dissent, these groups sow confusion about their true intentions. This is one aspect of thought control.
The only accurate information you're going to receive about Scientology is by being in a Scientology church and doing Scientology auditing.
Thorough indoctrination is the ultimate goal. Using behavioral control, they strip away individuality. By providing a new language, name, and values, the cult reinforces the connection to the new identity. Constantly praying, meditating, humming, singing, chanting, or reciting a phrase is used in order to self-hypnotize and prevent negative thoughts from rising. Only thinking positive thoughts about the group prevents casting blame outward when abused or lied to, and it causes members to blame themselves instead. Now a persecution complex develops. Any outsider information is considered forbidden and simply deepens the recruit's faith in the cult when shown. Cultivating self-doubt, cutting off outside support groups, and controlling the flow of information allows destructive cults to manipulate the range of the cult members' emotions. Everything is all or nothing all the time. The only support you have is within the group, and you are either going to be treated with love or as the absolute enemy. All the punishment that you suffer is made to be entirely your fault, and any mistake is worthy of any punishment given. At this point of time, the indoctrination is complete, and leaving the group no longer feels like an option. The fear of punishment, embarrassment, or shame, real or imaginary, may be too overwhelming. This is how cultists are made. They are not robots and they are not zombies. Through careful grooming, cultists are a self-perpetuating cycle of abuse. With this power, cults have been able to build absurd levels of wealth and power, while stripping both their targets and their members of their money, bodily autonomy, civil rights, and sometimes lives. Through severing ties with others, absorbing all financial assets, encouraging rigid or no thinking at all, and providing a false sense of security, cults create an environment from which it's comfortable to enter and difficult to escape. This isn't an indictment on religion. You can meditate, pray, and commune in healthy ways with mutually respectful groups. This is about the other guys. Of course, there are also non-religious cults. In the age of the internet, particularly social media, cults are just as prominent as ever. Please be careful. If you like this video or learned something new, please leave a like. If you'd like to hear more about specific destructive cults and their impacts, please subscribe. Until next time.
I think that all of you know that I'm here to find out more about questions that have been raised about your operation here. But I can tell you right now that from the few conversations I've had with some of the folks here already this evening, that whatever the comments are, there are some people here who believe that this is the best thing that ever happened to them in their whole life.